Hey there booktube, welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 4 of Vlogmas. Yes, that's still happening. In my video yesterday, I shared the books that I'm reading this week. This book is Virginia Woolf's response to the question about women's fiction. Women in fiction, women appearing in fiction as characters, women who write fiction, and how the writing that is produced by women is viewed in literary circles. It got me thinking about where we are now. It's been almost 100 years since this book, and I was just thinking about some of the changes that have happened. I've always thought that I preferred books that were written by women, but in examining books that I have rated very highly, I can't quite definitively say that. A few weeks ago, I read Mia Alvar's short story collection, In the Country. What made that book stand out in my memory, and that I'm going to mention it now, is that several of the characters were male, and when she started writing them, I wasn't sure whether the character was male or female because she didn't give a lot of information about the character themselves when the story started. And because I automatically think that if a woman is writing, that the main character, if it's written in first person, is probably going to be female, I automatically assumed that the character was female. But when I came upon a line that proved that the character was male, it set me aback because I had been visualizing a female main character all along. When I was reading this book last night, I was thinking about that. So I decided to run a little experiment, not on me so much, but on you. I'm going to share a couple of passages, and you're going to tell me whether you think those are male or female authors. Here we go. First paragraph says, "It's not that I never think about Paul. He comes to me occasionally before I'm fully awake, though I almost never remember what he said or what I did or didn't do to him. In my mind, the kid just plops down into my lap. Boom. That's how I know it's him. There's no interest in me, no hesitation. We're sitting in the nature center on a late afternoon like any other, and his body moves automatically toward mine. Not out of love or respect, but simply because he hasn't yet learned the etiquette of minding where his body stops and another begins. He's 4. He's got an owl puzzle to do. Don't talk to him. I don't. Outside the window, an avalanche of poplar fluff floats by, silent and weightless as air. The sunlight shifts. The puzzle cleaves into an owl and comes apart again. I prod Paul to standing. Time to go. It's time. But in the second before we rise, before he whines out his protest and asks to stay a little longer, he leans back against my chest, yawning, and my throat cinches closed. Because it's strange, you know. It's marvelous and sad too, how good it can feel to have your body taken for granted." Based on that paragraph, what do you think? Is that male or female writing? Is that book written by a man for a female audience? Is that book written by a woman for a female audience? Or is that book written by... The Reveal? This is The History of Wolves by Emily Friedland. This is actually a book that was nominated for the Man Booker Prize this year, and it is a female character, a young girl who is babysitting a little boy. Does that change your thought? You might have thought maternal instinct. There's nothing in this passage that identifies the narrator as male or female, but what did you think? Let me know. That's book 1. Book 2 says, "When I was 15, I got hepatitis. It started in the fall and lasted until spring. As the old year darkened and turned colder, I got weaker and weaker. Things didn't start to improve until the next year. January was warm, and my mother moved my bed out onto the balcony. I saw sky, sun, clouds, and heard the voices of children playing in the courtyard. As dusk came one evening in February, there was the sound of a blackbird singing. The first time I ventured outside, it was to go from Blumenstrasse, where we lived on the second floor of a massive turn-of-the-century building, to Bahnhofstrasse. That's where I'd thrown up on the way home from school one day the previous October. I'd been feeling weak for days, in a way that was completely new to me. Every step was an effort. When I was faced with stairs either at home or at school, my legs would hardly carry me. I had no appetite. Even if I sat down at the table hungry, I soon felt queasy. I woke up every morning with a dry mouth and the sensation that my insides were in the wrong place and too heavy for my body. I was ashamed of being so weak. I was even more ashamed when I threw up. That was another thing that had never happened to me before. My mouth was suddenly full. I tried to swallow everything down again and clenched my teeth with my hand in front of my mouth. But it all burst out of my mouth anyway, straight through my fingers. I leaned against the wall of the building, looked down at the vomit around my feet, and retched something clear and sticky. So there is emotion in that paragraph, but it's not quite the same emotion as in the first one. The first book had some maternal, parental instinct going on. This is clearly an adult writer who, even though there is German references, which makes me think that this would be a conservative author, but is still pretty comfortable talking about personal things, body fluids, vomit. This is not geared for women. This is not aimed at a female audience, I don't think. So, do you think this is a man writing for men or a woman writing for men? Da-da-da-da-da. And it is The Reader by Bernard Schlink. Surprised? No, me neither. Male. When he woke in the woods in the dark and the cold of the night, he'd reached out to touch a child sleeping beside him. Nights dark beyond darkness, and the days more gray, each one, than what had gone before. Like the onset of some cold glaucoma dimming away the world, his hand rose and fell softly with each precious breath. He pushed away the plastic tarpaulin and raised himself in the stinky robes and blankets and looked toward the east for any light, but there was none. In the dream from which he'd wakened, he had wandered in a cave where the child led him by the hand, their light playing over the wet flowstone walls, like pilgrims in a fable swallowed up and lost among the inward parts of some granitic beast. Deep stone flues where the water dripped and sang, tolling in the silence the minutes of the earth and the hours and the days of it and the years without cease, until they stood in a great stone room where lay a black and ancient lake, and on the far shore a creature that raised its dripping mouth from the rimstone pool and stared into the light with eyes dead white and sightless as the eggs of spiders. It swung its head low over the water as if to take the scent of what it could not see. Crouching there, pale and naked and translucent, its alabaster bones cast up in shadow on the rocks behind it, its bowels, its beating heart, the brain that pulsed in a dull glass bell. It swung its head from side to side and then gave out a low moan and turned and lurched away and loped soundlessly into the dark. This is not written for a female audience. So, is this a woman trying to be masculine or a man who is writing for men? This is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was a Pulitzer Prize winner. Are you surprised by that? There's definitely emotion in this passage, but it's more machismo. His hand rose and fell softly with each precious breath. Kind of makes you think of challenge, person on a quest for something. So that, I think, is definitely written by a man for men. Here's another one. The longer my father lived in this world, the more he knew there was another to come. It was not that he thought this world beyond saving, although in darkness I suppose there was some of that, but rather that he imagined there must be a finer one where God corrected his mistakes, and men and women lived in the second draft of creation and did not know despair. My father bore a burden of impossible ambition. He wanted all things to be better than they were, beginning with himself and ending with this world. Maybe this was because he was a poet. Maybe all poets are doomed to disappointment. Maybe it comes from too much dazzlement. I don't know yet. I don't know if time tarnishes or polishes a human soul, or if it's true that it's better to look down than up. Does that sound like a male or a female writer? Does it feel like it's aimed toward men or women? If you thought that was a female main character, you would be right. But if you think that that's a female author, you would be wrong. History of the Rain by Neil Williams is a man writing a book that is narrated by a teenage girl. Did that surprise you? Tell me about it in the comments. And the last one is an experiment for both of us because this book is written under a pseudonym, so I'm not sure whether the author is male or female, but here we go. First paragraph is a journal entry. My friend Henry Quantum, whom everyone called Bones because he was so tall and thin, and because Dr. McCoy was his favorite character from Star Trek, had a single task that day, and that was to buy a Christmas present for his wife. Having put this off for several weeks, or months actually, and having noted with alarm when checking his iPhone for updates from the Huffington Post that the 23rd of December had arrived without the purchase of anything at all, not even a stocking stuffer, he knew he had no choice but to go shopping. It was a work day, so there were a few other things on the agenda, but in terms of mission, only one: make Margaret happy. He had already settled on a bottle of Chanel No. 5 and decided where to get it too, at Macy's. And he also figured that the best time to get it would be first thing in the morning so that he wouldn't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. All this he decided in a panic upon waking, but having made his decisions, a kind of peace descended upon him, and he entered the shower with a happy heart. Done, 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 and done, he told himself. That is an author writing about a male narrator. Well, I'm not sure. So it says my friend Henry Quantum. So is Henry's friend male or female? We don't know yet. So what do you think? Is that a man writing for a female audience? Is that a man writing for a male audience? Or a female? Based on the cover, I think this book is designed to appeal to females. It is a perfume bottle. It's the details that are given in that first paragraph with checking his iPhone for Huffington Post updates. The author's name, Pepper Harding, is a pseudonym, and that is stated in the back. Pepper Harding is the pen name of a San Francisco writer known for an entirely different kind of literature. Pepper has 2 kids, 2 cars, 1 spouse, and some say multiple personalities. Is Pepper a man and one of those personalities is female? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and we'll talk down there about these books and whether you think male or female writing is implicitly different. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being here for day 4 of Vlogmas. And until tomorrow, happy reading. Bye.